Yep. Just let me get it out.
All right, Karen, cut that one.
Welcome back to another episode of the Monarch Social podcast, where we discuss all things digital media marketing in hopes to give the viewers at home a little inside glimpse to this digital marketing world. I'm your host, Morgan McKell, and today I'm flying solo, mostly because we needed 3 microphones and I only brought 1. So, that being said, my beloved co-host Makoa will not be with us today, but I will try to hold the banner in his honor. All right, so the last time we spoke with you guys, a lot of things have happened, and I'm going to jump into some of those cool things. The big thing was we actually did have our event. So we hosted a huge digital media marketing event where we taught some of our tips and tricks of social media marketing and advertising, stomped on some of the gurus out there that we think are just big phonies, and taught some real marketing. We had a great turnout. It was super fun. It was super successful, and we can't wait to do that again. We're probably going to do them quarterly. The last podcast that we did, Makoa and I were talking about websites, what makes a great website, and things to look for. And then we started touching on SEO, search engine optimization. And we told you guys listening, we wanted to bring on our guy. And so that's what we did for you today. We brought in the big guns. So our guest today is none other than Mr. Joshua Tobler. He is the owner of Dragontail SEO, right?
Longtail Dragon.
Oh my gosh, I already screwed it up. Longtail Dragon SEO, right?
Correct.
And Josh actually works directly with us, and he is our fulfillment center for all of the SEO that we provide. And so I thought, no better guest to have than our guy. So Josh, welcome to the show.
I appreciate the invite.
I'm so excited to have you here. First of all, tell us your story, who you are, what you're all about, and then how did you get started in the SEO world?
Sure. How much detail do I go into?
Yeah, it's up to you.
My interest in business goes way, way back. I remember being in the 4th grade or something. We read this book about some kid who makes it big selling toothpaste.
Okay.
and like, how interesting is toothpaste? But the idea fascinated me that, like, here's this kid my age who hustles and grinds and generates his own source of income, and this idea just stuck in my head like a mind virus. I could not get this idea out of my head.
How old were you?
Oh, I don't remember. 3rd grade, 4th grade.
And there was just this random kid slanging toothpaste down the street.
Yeah, I think the book's called like The Toothpaste Millionaire or something like that.
Okay.
And that's probably that interest is probably what led me to study business in college. And
awesome.
As luck would have it, while I was in business school, they developed a digital marketing track. So it wasn't exactly a major, but you could take these classes and they gave you, I don't know, a gold star on your diploma or some crap. I don't know what it was, but I took all those classes and I fell in love with it.
Awesome.
And ended up, that parlayed me into a job in an SEO company doing link building, which for those who don't know is one of the most important, but also the most difficult parts of getting your website ranked in Google or other search engines. So I started there, cut my teeth doing some of the hardest stuff in SEO. Eventually they put me in charge of the full service SEO service line. And so I learned how to do the keyword research and the technical SEO and the on-site SEO and all those things. I was the guy. I was the account manager, and that was way fun. That was a great learning experience. But that place did not survive COVID.
Oh wow!
Or at least that product line didn't. So I got laid off. But I don't know. About a month after I got laid off, I started getting phone calls from some of my old clients saying, hey, they didn't really replace you, and we still need SEO. You want to be our guy?
Yes.
I said, yes, I do. So I got the tools I needed and set up shop, and I was off and running. Now, the thing is that wasn't... I couldn't make a living with just those clients, so I did what any business owner should do, and I hit the prospecting super hard, and that's how I bumped into you.
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, and you can tell your side of the story, but I just hit you at just the perfect time because you were looking for somebody to fill those shoes. And so we got talking, and I got integrated into the beautiful Monarch ecosystem.
Yeah, so it was the last part of the year, last year, the end of the year, and we had been discussing adding SEO as our services because it was such a natural fit. And I met with 2 or 3 people that I wanted to work with, and it ended up they just convoluted the whole damn thing, and it just really it just put a bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, nah, screw this. And then lo and behold, Mr. Tobes slid into my DMs on LinkedIn. And he said, hey, yo, I want to do some SEO with you. And I said, and I waited till after Christmas. I randomly messaged him back and I said, yeah, let's actually do it. Let's set up a meeting. And then the rest is history. And we launched our SEO services with you in January, and we've just been rocking ever since. And so that's how that happened. So that awesome story. So when did you start? Was it right after COVID last year, or was it fall? Like, when did you start this is where I'm going full speed ahead with this?
Yeah, I mean, we were hanging on at that other company for a while. I was trying to do sales and whatever I could do to keep things together. So that, I think I got laid off in June,
Okay.
and then by August I was up and running. So that's how fast
nice.
after they shut down that I got the phone call.
Yeah, because SEO is such a huge thing that I know there's going to be clients out there that are doing SEO, and then if you just to turn that off or just to stop doing it, they're going to be like, nah, dog, we got to keep doing this. So one of the big questions I wanted to have you answer, we tried to answer it in our best way last time, me and Makoa. When you're working with someone for the first time, like when you're talking to a business owner, how do you describe SEO? Like, what is your, not necessarily your pitch, it can be, but like, how do you describe SEO to someone that they think they know what it is, but maybe they don't understand all the facets of it? Like, what's the easiest way to describe what SEO is for a company?
Well, I mean, from the company's perspective, what matters is getting ranked, so you're getting seen, getting web traffic, right? They used to tell you all the time what matters in business is location, location, location. Well, that's true, but the location's just digital now. That's where people are getting discovered. And so fundamentally, SEO there's a lot of levers that can be pulled in the back end, but what matters is what the visible result is, and that's improved search rankings on the correct keywords.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere that SEO is still one of the biggest budget verticals in the digital marketing world. It's one of the highest spent. There's a word I'm looking for. It's one of the highest paid services out there right now, because it makes companies so relevant. And I know that there's this back and forth right now where some people say, hey, SEO isn't relevant anymore, and then there's other companies that they double down on SEO. What's your perspective on that?
I think SEO is here to stay.
Same.
I think that it's just like probably everywhere in digital marketing, the technology is changing super fast. The whole environment is changing super fast. And so the nature of what goes into SEO is likely to change month to month, say nothing of year to year. But as long as there is an internet, people are going to use it to try to find the products and services they want. And as long as they're looking for that, somebody is going to need to help businesses get in front of the right audience.
Yeah, I think it's just like a no-brainer how it works. It's like on one end of it, I think where they were coming from when people are saying like SEO isn't relevant, it was kind of how me and Mako were thinking when we first started. When we first started our company, and I can't remember if we said this on the podcast or not, we told it at our event, but when we first started, our whole mentality was, why do SEO that's going to take 6 months plus, or we run Google ads and I'll make you number one every single time, right? That was kind of our mindset. The thing that happened with us is we look at our oldest client right now, the one who's been with us for over 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. If they were to stop working with us right now, where do their leads go? How are people even going to find them? But if we had been doing SEO for the last 2 years for them, and they stopped working with us or stopped using us, they were going to be so much more benefited from doing SEO rather than just doing Google Ads with us. And that's kind of when our perspective kind of shifted of short-term versus long-term of, yeah, short-term, we can probably generate some leads quicker with using targeted ads and PPC stuff. But if you're going to be a company that's planning on being in it for the long haul, you're going to want SEO because it's going to benefit you for so much longer. It's that longer game. And so that's kind of how our mindset kind of shifted.
And I think that's the best way to think about it. Because the fundamental question here is, okay, I've got a new business. I need more customers. Yes. Where do I put my marketing budget? And I think you're thinking about this the way people should be thinking about this is, well, okay, so you need leads today.
Yeah.
So going all in on SEO might not be your best bet. You probably do want some social. You probably do want some search ads, but at some point you need to get a permanent presence. Ultimately, once you have search rankings, it's one of the lowest cost per acquisition, highest yield marketing avenues, marketing channels, but the what you pay for that is a bunch of investment on the front end before that really starts paying off, which that's hard.
Yeah, I think the hardest part with let's say marketing digitally in general is there's so many different avenues to do it, and it can be overwhelming. It can get expensive quick, and so you have to kind of take like a 50-foot top-down view of like, hey, what's your end goal? What are we really trying to do? Because when a company comes into us and they say, hey, we just want to do everything, I'm like, okay, hold your horses, because that can mean a lot of different things. You know, like we're talking some big bucks, you know? And then other companies they come in and they're like, I needed leads yesterday. Mm-hmm. I just need leads like right now. And it's like, okay, well, the hard part with marketing is that SEO is a spoke on the wheel.
Right.
Social media is a spoke on the wheel. PPC, having a great website, videography, photos, original content, a marketing funnel. You know, you have all these different spokes, and SEO is a huge spoke for long-term success. I truly, truly believe. And any company that is wanting to stay around or plan on staying around for a while, that should be a big spoke in the wheel that they should focus on.
I think you're right. And the reason why it's such a big spoke and the reason why it's here to stay is moving up a layer of abstraction. There's a difference between earned attention and demanded attention, right? Ads, and I've got nothing against ads. We do ads. I do ads. But you're inserting yourself in somebody's experience and demanding their attention, which used to work a lot better than it does today because you kind of become part of the noise, right? Because everyone is doing that. And people don't want your banner ad. They want to find the stupid X, and my fingers are too fat, and you always miss it. And
then it takes you to a weird... Yeah.
And they want to move on and get to the content or the experience that they wanted anyway. And you are interrupting that process, and people don't like that much. Versus if you can get in front of people who already want what you're selling, no wonder that's a higher yield avenue. And so this is the way to think about content marketing. This is the way to think about SEO. Can you earn attention by just being the best and getting in front of the right people rather than demanding attention? Although there's in this environment, there's certainly room for both.
No, I think that's very interesting perspective. No, for sure. That's very interesting. One of the things I wanted to do, Tobes, was the biggest questions that we get when we start kind of explaining SEO, there's these typical questions that come up, right? And I don't feel super equipped to answer them, but I thought it'd be great to have you. The first one is, what's the difference between on-page versus off-page SEO? What does that mean? We hear that term around, hey, you need on-page SEO, you need off-page SEO. Help us through that. Navigate us through these waters, Tobes.
Okay. Well, the simplest answer is on-site SEO is everything you do on your site.
Okay.
And off-site or off-page SEO is everything you do elsewhere on the internet that impacts your search rankings.
What's more important?
You need both. Everybody needs both.
So 50-50. You can have the best site in the world, but if you're not in other places on the internet, SEO is dead.
Yeah. So, maybe let's start with off-page SEO, because that's going to be the part that people struggle with the most, because by definition, it's dealing with a part of the internet that you don't control, right? The genius of Google, for people who are old enough to remember, do you remember Ask Jeeves?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
And then people kind of figured out how they did their thing, and they gamed it, and you couldn't find what you were looking for, so everybody moved to Yahoo.
Yep.
And then the same thing happened to Yahoo, so everybody moved to Google. And Google was, I'm old enough to remember the first time I used Google, it was magic. You got exactly what you were looking for on the first page every time. It was magic. Well, part of the magic was they figured out how to measure not just relevance but also authority. I think it was Larry Page wrote a paper about it in college. Where he talked about, like, hey, if you're just gonna index the entire internet anyway, which is basically what Google is, they just downloaded the internet. That's why they can serve up search results so fast. Then you could count references to different websites across the internet. Those are backlinks, right? People link to your website, and that's going to give you kind of a rough approximation of how authoritative a site is. It's brilliant innovation. And so that's one thing that you need to do, is you need to generate some of those links to boost your authority. And it's very, very few people can get away without doing that and see good results. That's usually the missing piece in most SEO campaigns.
So not only do you need to have strong, like your website needs to be strong, Google needs to know that you're legit elsewhere on the internet and people are referencing you and talking about you in other places.
Correct.
Does that sound fair?
Yep.
Okay. The next one is what are some of the biggest mistakes or misconceptions there are about SEO that you deal with business owners? Like, so the majority, like a lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers are business owners, people that are entrepreneurs, starting a business, want to start a business, or do have a business. So what are some of the biggest mistakes of SEO that you see, and what are some of the biggest misconceptions of SEO that you see?
Well, misconceptions, the biggest misconception I see is that people just don't do it. I'll come to a site and it'll have the technical side under the hood is all messed up and they haven't looked at that. Or another big misconception is a lot of people try to optimize their site for the algorithm. And the problem with that is, first of all, they're underestimating how good, especially Google, but also other search engines, are at recognizing human language. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting really, really ridiculously good. Okay. And so you're optimizing for an algorithm that, first of all, we don't have Google reverse engineered. So you're guessing at what you think the algorithm wants, and then you're optimizing for that. But also the algorithm is changing all the time. So you're taking a snapshot of what you think the algorithm looks like today and trying to optimize for that. That's probably a poor strategy. A better way to think about it is, like, look, Google wants to serve up authoritative, relevant results. So be authoritative and relevant. Like, optimize for your audience's ideal experience. Google's trying to approximate that with its algorithm, and it's getting better at doing that.
And so maybe this is more for the agencies than, okay, because I'll just be real. The majority of business owners that I know, if they're not hiring an agency to build a website for them, they're building it on Squarespace or Wix, or they don't care about the algorithm. They're just like, oh, cool content. Here's my product. Here's my logo. Okay, let's go. So,
and honestly, that's probably more of a advantage than a disadvantage.
So with the agencies that are hired, then are you saying that let's say agencies that build websites, are they trying to build it for the algorithm, and is that where there might be going wrong?
Yeah.
Maybe kind of like more sophisticated people that are building websites?
It's the people in SEO who have been around for a long time. You know, anywhere else, if I hire an HVAC guy and he says, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years, I think, great, you're an experienced guy. If you're an SEO and you say, I've been doing SEO for 20 years, I'm like, ooh, okay. SEO looks really, really different than it did 20 years ago.
For sure.
Not that HVAC doesn't change, but it doesn't change anywhere nearly as fast as this ecosystem.
Yeah, it could be like completely different.
Right.
Yeah, it is completely different. So.
Yeah, so it's some of the old timers who have been around for a little while that are still they're optimizing for a version of Google that hasn't existed in 15 years.
Oh, that's super interesting.
15 years is a little much. Google barely existed 15 years ago, but 10 years.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to say was, or ask, or kind of tell our listeners too, is one of the biggest misconceptions that I have seen is how expensive SEO is.
Yes.
Right? Anytime I mention it, it's almost like, oh man, like SEO, it's like so expensive. I just kind of wanted to put it out there that I think it's on a sliding scale. Mm-hmm. You can get started for super affordable all the way up to full blown, a lot of money a month. Okay. Like you can go as little as people want or as big as people want. And so one of the misconceptions that I have seen working with business owners is, oh man, that's going to be thousands of dollars every single month. And I just want to say that's not the case. It's a sliding scale.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the case, although a lot of SEO agencies won't take smaller accounts anymore. And part of the reason for that is because increased budget, what it really buys you is pace, right?
Yep.
How fast can I get these rankings?
And that's the same with us, with anything that we do, PPC or, social media. It's like, if you want to dump thousands of dollars into Facebook ads and we want to be on Facebook, Instagram, Google, and we want to do a full-blown scale, well, yeah, that's going to cost a lot of money. If we need to start small and let's just say run Facebook ads, it's going to be a very different price. And so I think that's with anything, though, mm-hmm. like with SEO, yeah, you can go as fast, as hot as you want if you have the budget. But that shouldn't deter you from at least starting now, fixing things on your website, fixing some of your backlinks and the things that are going to rank you. And we can really relatively do that for a pretty affordable budget with Monarch and us and our relationship.
Right. Yep. It will, the smaller budgets it'll be a little while before you're seeing your ideal results realized. But yeah, there's absolutely no reason not to at least get started on that level.
No, and speaking of timelines, what's like a normal timeline? Like how does SEO work with timelines? Is it there a build out phase and then it's like, okay, there's just monthly maintenance? Like tell us what a typical timeline, when can people expect results? What does results look like? What is that end of?
You ready for the most disappointing answer ever?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Completely depends.
Yes. Yep.
I'll tell you what it depends on. It depends on how competitive the keywords are that you're trying to rank for.
Okay.
Right? Because if you're trying to outrank an Amazon listing for something, that's going to be tough. If you're trying to outrank Walmart or if you're trying to outrank Home Depot on hardware, like you're screwed. Right?
Or you're going to need a huge budget.
Or you're going to need a Home Depot sized budget.
Yes.
But if you're only trying to rank locally in your area, for example, that's a much smaller market. There's not as many competitors. That's going to be easier to pull off. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is on these more budget level campaigns, I've gone really far out of my way to try to identify keywords that are not particularly competitive, but are still relatively high yield. So you're getting in front of the right people and it's not going to be a really long time. Even under those ideal circumstances, the fastest I've ever seen anybody see visible movement on their rankings is 3 months.
Okay.
And that's best case scenario. And that's just rankings improvements. Traffic improvements follow that, right? So
you get ranked better and then traffic follows that. Traffic to your website.
Once you get into the first page, which is roughly the top 10 results, right? Because nobody moves to the second page of Google.
No one.
No, so you got to get those first page results. Once you get there, then you're going to start seeing the traffic come in, and then assuming that you've got good conversion rate optimization, that's when that starts turning into sales, and then we're looking at positive ROI. But that's, now we're probably 6 months in, a best case scenario.
So business owners or people that are looking into SEO need to have a long-term mindset that says, hey, this isn't an overnight fix. We're going to have to fix a lot of stuff on the back end. Then we're going to put some actual time and energy into a campaign to get you to where you're needing. And it might be a year out, hopefully sooner. Maybe we're 6 months to a year, but let's say a year mindset of like dedicated SEO services. And then from there, what will happen, the whole point of it is you're going to be ranking better on Google. Your website will be more relevant and more searchable, and it'll get more people to your website. You're going to get more traffic to your website. And that's how we kind of have to tell people how to look at SEO, right?
Correct.
All right. So I have this random question in here too, Tobes, and I kind of asked it earlier, but for the people that say SEO isn't relevant anymore, what is the Tobes response to that? Is SEO relevant in 2021?
Yes.
All right, you heard it from him. No, so
I don't know what else to say about that. I honestly don't know where that idea comes from. As we move into a noisier and noisier media environment, earned attention is going to become more important, a more important aspect of your whole marketing channel distribution, not less relevant.
yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, my mindset had to get changed, but it's just because, you know, when we first started, that was the mindset. And then all of a sudden we realized there was so much more value we could give to our clients if we just offered one more little thing. And so that's what kind of changed our whole perspective. But we're right there with you. Monarch totally believes in SEO. That's why we offer it. It's one of our, it's a huge thing that we offer right now. Last thing, Tobes, you're great. Thank you for being our guest. Where can we find you? Where can they see what you're all up to, or what you're doing? Where can they find you online?
Well, at this point, all I'm doing is work for you for the most part. So monarchsocialbrand.com is a good place to start. Longtail Dragon has its own website that I have not kept up at all because you keep selling these SEO accounts so fast. You're keeping me too busy, but that would be longtaildragon.com.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to my next point is, guys, turn on your alerts. I want you guys to follow us. Give us a subscribe if you want. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart. We're all over the place. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well. New episodes of our podcast drop every single Tuesday. And thanks for being our guest today, Tobes.
Hey, I appreciate it. This has been fun. We can do this again sometime.
Let's do it. All right, guys, take it easy. Till next time.